I have a simple question for you. Do you think Abraham Lincoln was a hero, or do you think Abraham Lincoln was a tyrant? I'm going to keep my views to myself. I'm just going to present you with a lot of evidence very quickly. I won't get too specific. I'll keep it broad and easy to understand. The first thing I want to mention is, yes, it is clear Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, and that ended slavery in USA, legal slavery that is. What a monumental thing. Let's just get that out of the way. That's amazing that he did that. And I don't even want to get into earlier in his life. He wasn't very strongly abolitionist leaning, but obviously by the end of his life, he had literally signed the paperwork to free the slaves. Wonderful thing, of course. Now, that's basically all I'm going to mention regarding slavery, and I'm not even going to talk much about the Civil War. I presume if you clicked on this, you're pretty familiar with the Civil War. So I'll start with that you have some good background knowledge. First of all, I'll give a few reasons why I think why he could be considered a tyrant. He was extremely into censorship during the war. Now, a lot of people think that is very justifiable, because if a country is at war with itself, above all, the rule book can go out the window. It is such an unprecedented situation that to change the rules a bit is understandable, at least in most people's minds. But the issue why he can lean towards tyranny in some people's eyes is that he did a lot without Congress. He basically, I've read Doris Kearns Goodwin's book, Team of Rivals, so I have a good basis in when I say this. He did have a lot of wonderful people in his wartime cabinet, and he changed it around a lot. Both of those are good things. But he acted unilaterally way too much. And he got rid of over 80 different newspapers. I think that's pretty massive for all the talk these days about how CNN or Fox News or New York Times or this or that or Twitter is censoring or not censoring. If you have the president deciding to close down newspapers, that's a pretty big deal, especially when in that time newspapers are the main way people get news. In the 1860s, they sure weren't using YouTube and Twitter, I can assure you of that. Obviously, that's just a little joke since it's so obvious. Now, also Abraham Lincoln tried a lot of civilians in military courts under the justification that since the country's at war, we don't have time to go through habeas corpus. Now, if you don't know what that is, that's the bedrock of not only American law, but English civil law, where a lot of American law comes from, and the Roman 12 laws, which is the basis for a lot of the laws throughout the world. Habeas corpus basically means you are allowed as an American citizen, I shouldn't say allowed, you are entitled to have your day in court, and that you're presumed innocent until proven otherwise. But a lot of people in the Civil War under Abraham Lincoln went to jail with, I would never say with a show trial, but with a military trial. And I have a few years of experience in the armed forces myself, and military trials and civilian trials are, well, I don't want to say they have a ton of differences, but some clear marked differences. Also, why some people think that Lincoln was a tyrant is when John Wilkes Booth killed Lincoln and he jumped down from Lincoln's private box in the Ford Theater onto the stage, he yelled, "To all tyrants this," in Latin, "Sex semper tyrannus." Pardon me if my Latin pronunciation's wrong. But a lot of Southerners thought Lincoln was way too tyrannical, and even some Northerners did. A lot of people were conscripted into the Union Army under dubious circumstances, but it makes it seem like I'm just piling on Abraham Lincoln. Clearly he did some wonderful things. Clearly he's a very smart man. Clearly he led the Union to winning the Civil War, and clearly he did a lot to help rid America of its original sin of slavery. Now, I'm not saying if I think he's a tyrant or not. I'm just putting forth that even some of our biggest heroes, it is healthy to question their morals and their ethics and their actions. Luckily, a lot is written down about President Lincoln, and you could make an easy case whether he was a tyrant or a hero. The hero case, in my opinion, is much easier to make. Not that he wanted to die, but you could almost say he died for what he believed in. And I know he suffered from some mental health issues and some physical ailments. He definitely dedicated his life to his country, and I commend him for that. And in all my videos, I try to keep my own beliefs to myself. So I'm not going to say what I think of President Lincoln, other than, for good reason, he's remembered as the great president that he was. I'm not sure I'd call him the greatest president ever, because that is quite a heavy burden. And I've been vacillating on about 5 or 6 different presidents that I could make a case for are the best ever. But I'll wrap it up now. I just want to make clear, whoever your heroes are, it's always good to think, I don't always have to agree with everything they did. And it almost makes you appreciate someone more when they become more human. Because someone like President Lincoln is so mythologized. If you would just have a picture of a top hat and say, who would wear this hat? Most people would say Abraham Lincoln. And the beard is even more iconic, the beard without the mustache. So he's amazing at branding and amazing at compiling his Congress full of rivals, and for winning the bloodiest war in American history. President Lincoln was a complicated man, and if you look back on his time in office, you might be surprised at some of the conclusions. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. Remember, this channel is all about critical thinking. So if you agree with me or disagree with me, I'd love to hear it. I always try to be well-researched and balanced. And when it comes to President Lincoln, I know there's a lot to add. I sure have a lot more ideas to talk about, but I want to keep it short and sweet. See you soon.